And joining us now is Reza Moridi. He is the Liberal MPP from Richmond Hill, and we welcome you to TVO.
Thank you very much, Steve, for having me at TVO.
I want to take you back to the 1970s. You're a student in the United Kingdom.
That's
you
right.
saw a demonstration at the American Embassy in London.
Right.
Go. Finish the story.
Well, my wife and I, we were shopping at Oxford Street, London at that time, and we noticed demonstration going on in the square where the American Embassy is. And we just said, let's go and have a look, see what's happening. That was during the Vietnam War time. So suddenly I found ourselves in front of the Canadian Embassy, or Canadian High Commission in London. So I told my wife, let's go in and see how can we immigrate to Canada. So we went in, and there was a gentleman at the reception desk. I started talking to him, and he gave me brochures and some information. And so we took those brochures back home and looked at it, and then we said, well, we should try, we should apply for immigration. And then we said, well, no, we have to go back to our home country, Iran, to serve our country. But we didn't make any application anyway. But
that
we
was
took
your first connection with Canada.
That was our first connection with Canada, and I kept those lovely brochures.
You kept those, and we're going to hold that story right there because we're going to come back to that a little bit later. Fast forward a decade, you are working at a university in Iran. It's 1987, and you suddenly find yourself purged from your job. What happened?
Well, it was revolution, and after revolution, they start purging the universities, basically. That was what the revolutionary government decided to do. The reason being that, they found that the universities are their biggest opponents, so they shut down the universities for 3 years. Can you imagine? In a country to shut down universities for 3 years, that's what they did. And just after that, they start dismissing, or purging, as they called it, the word purging they used, purging the academics. And I was one of those academics who was purged from the university.
And was it at that moment you decided, we have to get out of here?
At that moment, yes. Yes, we decided to move out.
Initially, you left and went to Fiji, but Canada came next.
That's right.
That's when those brochures popped into your head.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, yes.
What did you know about Canada beyond what you saw in those brochures that you took from the High Commission at the demonstration?
Well, at that time, I didn't know much about Canada because I was quite young at that time, but later I studied about Canada. I had a series of Encyclopedia Britannica. So I loved geography, I love history. So I used to, open in my leisure time my Britannica and then read about Canada, Canadian provinces, Canadian system of government, and all of that.
So you knew all that before you came here?
Yes, I do.
Okay, yeah, so you came here and you got established. What did you do for a living when you came over?
Well, when I came over, I didn't have a job. I just came, it was me, my wife, 2 children, and 4 suitcases.
And that was it?
That was it. So we arrived on February 9th at Pearson Airport, midnight. So that was
February 9th, what year?
1990.
1990.
Yes.
Now, you became a physicist, right?
Yes, I'm a physicist.
And did you do that here in Canada?
Yes, I did, yes. After 2 or 3 months. Well, I started, first of all, just from day 2, our arrival, I started looking for a job, applying for a job. And I got a job at the Radiation Safety Institute of Canada as a scientist. So that's where I started my job. And then later I moved up.
That was your first job in Canada?
First, and before becoming the MPP, my only job, because I worked for the Institute for 17 years.
That's a pretty good gig for a first job for somebody who showed up here with 4 suitcases, don't you think?
It was, absolutely, yes. I was lucky.
Now, what made you think about going into politics?
Steve, I had always a passion for politics since I was a student, since I was a young boy, actually, even when I was in high school. So I had always interest in politics. And while in Canada, well, partly going back to my interest, my passion, and partly some friends within the Iranian community, some friends within the Liberal Party, they were encouraging me. And also I thought, coming from Iran, being an Iranian Canadian, Canada has offered me and Iranians a lot, and we owe to Canada a lot. So it's time for us to give back to our wonderful country, Canada.
I gather it was the former Finance Minister, Greg Sarbera, who lives in Richmond Hill, who started to get you interested in joining the Liberal Party and then running for a nomination. But I want to know, did you know when you were thinking about this that nowhere at any legislature in Canada or the United States had someone from the Iranian community ever been elected?
Well, I knew that in Canada we didn't have any elected Iranian official to any office. But the United States, I didn't know. Later I found that that is the case. I am the first Iranian to be elected to any office in the whole Americas.
I understand that while you were campaigning, you got calls from all over, right?
That's right.
Give me an example. Why would people call you?
Well, people are interested. You know, I mean, the Iranian Canadians from all over provinces, they got excited. And again, that gave them the feeling that now they are giving back something to our country. So I think that was the feeling of the public.
But did people call you from outside your riding saying, where do I go to vote for you?
Yes, yes, I have so many people calling me saying, why can't I vote for you? I would ask, well, where do you live? I live in London, I live in Windsor. I said, well, vote for Liberals in Windsor, vote for Liberals in Vancouver, or wherever you live. So yeah, that was the expectations.
Is the Iranian community in Richmond Hill, your riding,
Right.
so sizable that it would be enough to get you elected and that's it?
Oh, no, not at all. Iranian community in Richmond is very small. In comparison to other communities, about maybe 4 or 5% of population is Iranian.
So your victory you obviously attribute to being able to
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
go beyond your own community.
Oh, absolutely. I connected with every community in Richmond Hill, every community. And I'm very grateful to members of every community in Richmond Hill who elected me.
I'll bet you are. Well, take me to that night, October 2007. You win your first election. You therefore become the first person from the Iranian community ever elected in this country or the United States. What was that night like for you?
Well, it was a great evening, great night, Steve. It gave me a great feeling that now, you know, myself and also my community, now, again, they feel that their dream has come true. Now they have offered something to Canada. And I felt that now I could serve my country in this capacity, in the political capacity. So that was a great feeling.
There is another side to this, not saying to your story, but to this kind of a story, and that is, if you go back a couple of decades, I remember when Alvin Curling was elected the first black Ontarian to the Ontario legislature, and he once told me that he had headaches every single day for the first year that he was an MPP because he felt the oppressive weight of having to represent an entire community on his shoulders. Do you ever feel that way?
I don't actually. I mean, I get calls from people all over southern Ontario where Iranians generally live in Ontario, but I don't have that feeling.
Why not?
No. Well,
because you are representing more than just the Liberal Party, you know. You're representing an entire community in some respects.
That's true. It takes a little bit of work, of course, but I'm enjoying. I'm enjoying serving the public. So I guess that's the reason. I really enjoy serving the public.
Do you worry about screwing up?
No. No.
Why not? Most rookies do.
Well, you know, I've got some experience in life, so I think that helps me to you know, to be prudent, to be careful, to act with some prudence. So hopefully I won't. Of course, nobody is free of mistake.
You have 6 siblings, right? You
Yes,
have. Let me see if
right.
I've got this right. You've got 1 who lives in Los Angeles.
Right.
You got 2 who still live in Iran.
That's right.
You've got 1 in Sweden.
That's right.
You've got 1 in Turkey.
That's right.
And you're in Canada.
That's right.
Does this family ever get together?
Well, we didn't have a chance to get together, you know, but I visited my siblings from time to time.
Do you feel, a family, don't misunderstand the question, but a family this disparate and this around the world, do you feel Iranian? Do you feel Canadian? Do you feel a citizen of the world? Which gets closest?
Well, now I feel equally Iranian and Canadian. That's what I feel now.
But are you comfortable anywhere in the world that you go, given how spread out your family is?
Well, you know, I have siblings who are Swedish, my brother's children, you know, they're Swedish.
Are they blonde-haired and blue-eyed?
Well, partly. And then another brother who's American now, the other brother who lives in Turkey. But you know, Steve, this is the story of many Iranians after the revolution. The families are scattered all over the world, you know. Wherever you go in the world, you find Iranians. I've traveled almost all parts of the world, except African continent and South America. And wherever I've been, I've seen Iranians.
I know you're Iranian, but your last name ends in a vowel, and you represent a riding in York Region, where there is a sizable Italian community.
Right.
Do people sometimes think you're Italian?
Oh, yes, they do. Sometimes they think that I'm Italian. And I respond, yes, I am, but 50%.
50% Italian?
Yes.
How do you figure?
They asked me, is it your father Italian? I said, no. Your mother Italian? I said, no. And they said, how it comes? I said, my granddaughters. I have two Italian-Canadian granddaughters.
So one of your kids married an Italian.
That's right.
That's how it works.
Yeah,
Okay.
Italian-Canadian, yeah.
I see. Very good.
Yeah.
I want to ask you two more things. Number one, Iran, of course, is still very much in the news. And Hillary Clinton said something at the Pennsylvania debate not too long ago when asked, if Iran attacked Israel, what would the United States do? And her response was quite strong in the views of many, that essentially, they have enough power, the United States, to obliterate Iran, and they wouldn't hesitate to do so. What did you think of that answer when you heard that?
Well, I think that's a pretty strong answer to that question, but generally speaking, I don't see that that's happening. Though Iran may threaten Israel and other countries, mainly Israel. You have seen those unpleasant comments from the president of Iran, which is not unusual of that person. But practically, that is something close to impossibility.
Do you think he's crazy, Ahmadinejad?
Well, I don't use that word, but it's not a wise person anyway. I mean, a wise politician wouldn't act the way they do.
You wish somebody else was in there?
Well, of course.
When you think about the future of your former country, what comes to mind?
Well, Iran is an ancient country with very rich civilization, very rich culture, and I'm sure people will get through this hurdle. We have been in history, in our long history of Iran for over 25 centuries. There was ups and downs, and there was foreign conquest and all of that, and people have come through those, and I'm sure people will go through this system of government in Iran as well. I think things will improve in the future for sure.
Suffice to say, you'd like to see an end to the theocracy as soon as possible.
I do so, yes.
One last question, sir. Fill in the blank. My time in public life will have been worth it if I can achieve what?
Well, there are various issues we are facing in Ontario. One of them is our transit system. If we can make improvements to our transit system, this $17.5 billion transit plan, if we can make that happen, I think that will be a great contribution to our province. The other major issue is improving our healthcare system, which is absolutely a great asset to our country and our province. If we can make improvements in that area, I think that's also a great achievement.
And is that something that one person can make a difference on?
None of these things can happen by one person, but at least people like me as a politician, we can make a difference. We can make a contribution.
I appreciate your time, Reza Moridi. Thanks so much for coming into TVO tonight, and good luck with your new job at the Legislature.
Thank you very much, Steve, for having me in your program.